Okay, like to call the meeting to order. It's 7:05. Yes, Sandy, can you do roll call, please?
Yes, we have Alyssa Hurd, Mary Taggart, Joe Liggett, Sandy Slavin, Kenny Baptiste, Jim Smith, and Rob, wait a minute, Lesser,
Lassen.
Lasser, and Agent Dave Persett.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody that this is being recorded for television. And
Yeah.
first on the agenda, let's go with the extension request for Stephen Pratt, 80 Paper Mill Road. Yes, could you identify yourself for the record?
Stephen Pratt, 80 Paper Mill Road.
Yeah, and be sure to speak into the mic.
Okay, this request is to extend an order of conditions. This is a project that we have approved at 80 Paper Mill Road, which involves the removal of a dwelling and the reconstruction of a new dwelling. And the applicant has not been able to complete the project at this point or get it going, so he's requesting a one-year extension to the order of conditions, which I would recommend issuing.
Okay, do you have anything to add, say?
Not really. The whole problem with the project is the novice in charge of it. That would be me. And I believe I put the cart before the horse when I went for the order of conditions, and I didn't have all my ducks in a row after. Lost my train of thought.
Totally
sorry.
understand. I make a motion, we extend the order of conditions for 1 year.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
Sorry, I babbled. Thank you very much.
What do you want to do? You want to do these? Or you want to do this?
So that'll take 2 seconds, and then, yeah, you can do these right now.
That's pretty painless. Let's go home.
Okay, certificate of compliance for Philip Sheridan, 104 Pinehurst Drive.
This project was at 104 Pinehurst Drive, and the project involved repairs to a seawall at this location. The project has been completed according to the order of conditions, so I would recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance for this project.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Sandy's motion, seconded by
Mary.
Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you. Okay, certificate of compliance for John Deacus, Burgess Point Shores subdivision.
Good evening. Steve Gioso with SciTech, representing John Deacus this evening.
Thank you. David will highlight, and we'll go from there.
This project in the Burgess Point area was for the construction of a subdivision, and the project has not been 100% completed. It's, I think, close to being complete. We just don't have the as-built plan yet for the road. But at this point, what they're trying to seek is for the commission to issue a partial certificate of compliance for the release of several lots within the subdivision, because those lots are looking to be purchased by the Buzzards Bay Coalition. So in your mail, there's a letter from the coalition expressing their interest in purchasing these properties to be kept as conservation land. So in order for them to purchase the lots, they're trying to get a release from the order of conditions so that the lots are clean. Mr. Giosa can explain further as well, but that's the intent of what they're requesting tonight.
Okay.
Correct. John has entered into a purchase and sales agreement with the Buzzards Bay Coalition to essentially have the coalition acquire about 3.5 of the lots that were created. These were originally going to be residential lots. John built the road, the drainage systems, but never sold the lots. He sold one lot at the end, which was built on, but the other lots, no work was ever initiated on any of the lots. But when the order was issued for the subdivision, it obviously encumbered all the land that Mr. Deacus had as part of this development. The Buzzards Bay Coalition is looking to close on lots 1, 2, 5, and a portion of Lot 3. They originally wanted to close last month, but this issue came up in the title search. This subdivision goes back about 15 years with the commission and the planning board, so it's got a bit of history. So the attorneys, before they allow the coalition to acquire the land, wanted to see if we could acquire a release from the order of conditions. I think at the last meeting, you folks released Lot 3, which we had a separate order of conditions on, but no work was ever initiated. So you did grant and issue a certificate of compliance for that. But they also would like to see if the commission would be comfortable with releasing those lots that the coalition is looking to acquire. They'd like to close next month, and this would allow them to do that. The attorney for Mr. Deacus and I spoke the end of last week. He has apparently authorized us to complete the as-built for the road, which is, I think, the last remaining item. If you look at the road, it's very stable. The detention areas were constructed. Everything looks like it's in good shape, but obviously we would have to verify that in accordance with the order of conditions with a as-built drawing that would be submitted for review by the commission and also by the planning board. So we know it's unusual for the commission to give partial releases, but in this case, given the land preservation aspect of this, we were hoping that we could move forward with this partial release, then come back for the remaining lots. And just as a point of interest, Mr. Deacus has one of the other remaining lots on the agreement. That individual is looking for a lot release, but we understand that we're going to need to get the full release on the road with the as-built being submitted before we can come in and request that particular lot for release. So that's where we're at this evening, and we're hoping you can give us that partial release.
Questions?
No.
No. Jim? Sandy?
These lots, when they're purchased by BBC, would they be a part of their CR, conservation land?
I don't know how they're going to acquire it, and they want it because it's ideal, because it's abutting their
It's
other
abutting the
land. And
existing
that's their
land
reason.
that-
They're trying to acquire and build on that existing open space and preservation land, so.
Expand the open space, not build.
Right, and so I can't speak to their specific goal and how they're going to restrict its activity. We're not representing the coalition, so
But
I
if they
don't want
buy
to
it,
speak out
if
of
they
turn.
buy it, they don't need a CR, I mean, right?
Right, that's correct.
It's, they're purchased outright, it's
They're
not as if it's
purchasing
coming.
it outright, yes,
okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
Joe?
So basically, we're just waiting for, we're gonna need an as-built?
That's correct.
That's for the issuance of the final certificate for the entire project, but what they're seeking tonight is for the commission to vote to issue a partial certificate of...
1, 2, 5, and out of 3?
Correct.
All right, and the agent's feelings on that?
I'm, given the circumstances of why it's being done, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Mary?
No question.
Elisa?
Yeah, it's just, do you have any idea what the general plan is for this whole area? On this side, I know that they store boats there and things like that, but do you know what their overall plan there? They're gonna put a shed for boats?
In terms of the coalition's plan for the property, yeah, I have not spoken to the coalition directly. I've spoken to their attorney, Mark Deshays, and he has not indicated any plans for the property other than to incorporate it into the remaining open space land that they already have control over. But I'm not aware of any development plans to add structures or any other
For
activities.
roadways?
No. I think the idea is to extend walking paths, but beyond that, and obviously that'd be something that I'm assuming they'd have to come before the commission for, because they're in the flood zone or within the buffer zones of different resource areas.
One more question. The land that Mr. Deacus gave under conservation restriction is very limited to usage.
Yeah.
You can't go on there unless you're invited on it. Do you see these lots having the same restrictions? I know I'm asking questions you don't have the answer for, but that would be only,
No, I think their goal is to expand the walking trails and the ability for public access in a controlled fashion.
that's-
I
okay,
believe that,
okay.
I mean, it's in their letter that says their immediate plans are to develop walking and property maintenance trails on the land at this
I
time.
can believe maintenance trails.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no problem with the request.
Anybody in the public?
I didn't read it.
Okay.
I make a motion, we complete a partial certification of compliance for lots 1, 2, 5, and part of 3, pending the full submittance of an as-built plan.
Well, as far as that goes, this is not intended to be tied to the as-built for this partial. So
there's
if the
no-
motion
then I-
wouldn't want to say pending the as-built. So you just say, just a motion to grant a partial for those
Then I
lots.
withdraw my motion and say, I make a motion to provide a certification of compliance for lots 1, 2, 5, and 3 at the Burgess Point Shores subdivision.
All right, Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, you want to go right into hearings? Okay, we're going to start our public hearings. Sandy, can you read the first one, please?
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaws, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, June 20th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Patrick Drummond, 254 Barker Road, East Wareham, Mass. 02538, to construct a garage addition for property located Assessor's Map 125, Lot 4, 254 Barker Road, East Wareham.
Patricia.
Oh, sorry, Patricia. Even with glasses.
They're pretty
I know that feeling. Hi, can you identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Patricia Drummond.
Okay, thank you. David will highlight.
The project site here is at 254 Barker Road, and the project involves the construction of a garage addition in the buffer zone to White Island Pond. A 24 by 28-foot garage addition is proposed, and this would be approximately 90 feet from the edge of the wetland. So there's just a portion of the structure that would be in the buffer zone. The garage would have a poured concrete foundation and would be on the side of the dwelling that is away from the pond. There's no grade changes proposed, and the existing driveway and other landscape features already exist between the work and the pond, so I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 3.
Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No.
Questions from the board? Jim? Rob?
Would you say it was maybe 10 feet off?
It's just 10 feet within the buffer zone.
Yeah. Any reason you don't shift the building 10 feet?
Well, because the existing house is there, then they want it attached to the house, so otherwise you'd have to have a detached garage.
No. I'm just curious, jog it.
Well, in other words, there's no way for it to be outside if it's going to be attached to the house, if you see where the 100-foot line is.
Okay,
Jim? I have
just
nothing.
curious, yep.
Sandy?
Joe and I did visit the site, and I understand the reason for the garage is for a little safety feeling. Drive in at night, you drive into a garage as opposed to walking outside critters.
It's a little dark down
You
there
are
when you
far
get
from
home at night.
everything. I have no questions.
No questions?
Mary?
No question.
Alyssa?
No.
Anybody in the audience?
Motion approved?
Second?
Joe's motion, seconded by Sandy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
Brandon, negative 3 determination?
Joe's motion, seconded by
Sandy, I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was easy, what is it?
Notice of public hearing Wednesday, June 20th, 2018. Amendment to order of conditions for BWC Wareham River LLC, care of Blue Wave Solar, care of Field Engineering Company, Inc., 11D Industrial Drive, P.O. Box 1178, Mattapoisett, Mass. 02539, to amend an order of conditions for property located Assessor Maps 113 and 115, lots 1014C, 1013B, and 1002B off Charge Pond Road.
Dave, I may ask a question. Are these similar, or we can take care of both of these at the same time?
No.
No? Okay, so one at a time.
Thank you. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Can you identify yourselves for the record, please, and then David will highlight?
John Mancini with Blue Wave Solar.
And Rich Riccio from Field Engineering.
Thank you. David?
So this request is to amend an order of conditions. So what you have in front of you now is the proposed amended plan. I have the original plans if members wish to look at those plans. But essentially, the request is to amend the order, to modify the plan to add a stormwater drainage feature that is intended to alleviate some flooding that occurs at the site during the wetter season in the spring. This is one of the 4 Blue Wave solar projects. This is the one that was constructed in the gravel pit area, if you recall the sites before they were developed. So in terms of the site, it appears that as a result of sand removal activities at the site that took place before the solar project was put in, that the elevation was taken down to a point that was fairly close to the groundwater table, and so during certain times of the year, you do get some ponding in portions of the current solar array. The proposal is to construct a drainage trench that ultimately would discharge water to an existing wetland. I discussed the project with the engineer, and it's my recommendation not to allow this project as it's proposed, because it does propose work within the 30-foot no-activity zone. And it does result in discharging stormwater to the existing wetland. And because this scenario here is essentially a created problem by the past and current use of the site, this is something that should have been designed for when the solar array was being proposed. I did discuss alternatives with the engineer that involve constructing a stone trench that sort of dead ends at a point and would take a significant volume of stormwater, but would stop short of then discharging into the wetland. So, in my opinion, we should request a modification of the proposed plan and not approve it as proposed at this time.
Anything to add?
Yes, I did meet with Mr. Pichette on site yesterday. We did walk the property. Basically, yeah, back in March and April, after the snow melt and the heavy rains we had, we did observe 6 to 8 inches of ponding of water in the southwest corner of the array. Since that time, it hasn't really continued to take place, but it was an operational concern of the applicant. So we did propose extending the edge drain system that we have already in place and to provide additional storage volume. The lowest spot on the site to potentially discharge that system is the drainage ditch that's shown on the plan. Originally, we had talked about discharging directly to that ditch, which we pulled that immediately off the table because of the work within the buffer zone and the no-touch. And then we did meet out on site, and I understand Mr. Pachette's concerns with the solid connection to the culvert. What we'd like to do is, has Mr. Pachette recommended, eliminate that direct connection, just make use of the additional storage within the edge drain system. We've done as-built drawing, as-built survey of the site. It appears that they have brought the grade back up a bit within the area of the array, which should alleviate the flooding concerns on the array itself. And we can accept some ponding outside the limits of the array at certain times of the year. So with that, and we'd still request approval of the amendment with the exception of the direct connection to the drainage structure.
Yeah, that I'm fine with. It's just a matter of, does the commission want a formal plan amendment in hand before they vote on it? But based on what Mr. Riccio said, I'm fine with the change and would recommend approval based on the revision.
I mean, you could even condition the approval that would just eliminate that connection as well if you wanted to, I would think. And we'll follow up with the revised plan for the file that does not have that connection shown. That's an option as well.
Okay, Rob?
No questions.
Nothing. Sandy?
Nothing, thank you.
Joe?
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Elisa?
No.
Anybody in the audience? Okay.
Seeing none, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Sandy's motion?
Oh,
Huh?
for discussion.
All right.
If we close the hearing, then there's nothing more that comes back to review, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, but you're...
And if we close the hearing, are we saying that we will approve it with a stipulation that a modified plan will be submitted before work is started?
That's right.
Conditioned. Okay. So, knowing the two options we have, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Sandy's motion? Seconded by Elisa and Mary. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Okay.
I make a motion, we approve the amended order of conditions on with the stipulation that revised plans will be submitted showing no hard connection to the drainage ditch. Did I understand that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Before work is begun.
Not a problem.
All right, Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next hearing, please.
Notice a public hearing with amended order of conditions from BWC Pocasset River LLC, care of Blue Wave Solar, care of Field Engineering Company, Inc., 11D Industrial Drive, P.O. Box 1178, Mattapoisett, Mass. 02739, to amend an order of conditions for property located at Assessor's Map 15, Lot 1004, off Charge Pond Road, Wareham.
all right.
Rich Riccio from Field Engineering.
John Mancini from Blue Wave Solar.
Thank you. David? Yeah, they're working on it.
Okay, so this is Lot 1004 off of Charge Pond Road. And again, this is a request to amend an existing order of conditions for the solar project at this location. So again, this request is also to modify the approved stormwater basin for the project. And the request is basically to convert the open stormwater basin to an underground stormwater recharge field. So this would be done in the same general location as the existing stormwater basin, but instead of having an open basin, you would have more or less underground leaching structures. So therefore, you would no longer have an open ponded area. Some of the proposed drainage structures take up area within the existing basin, and that area that's not being utilized by the new structures would just be filled in so that it's more or less a level area, and then it would be loamed and seeded. So I don't have a problem with this request. It's just a conversion of one type of drainage structure to another, and it's in the same general area, so I would recommend the issuance of the amended order for this project.
Okay, do you have anything to add?
No, other than that, I did speak with, well, I have an email from Charlie Rowley, the town engineer, that he's fine with the change to the plan. I think Mr. Pacheco got a copy of that as well. He did make a couple recommendations for during construction, things that need to take place, including installation of a silt fence ahead of the edge drain, the crushed stone trench, to minimize the potential for sedimentation into the subsurface system. So I do have that shown on the presentation plan here this evening and can provide a final copy to the office as well.
Okay, Rob?
No.
Jim? No. Sandy?
Why the change?
The landowner has requested the change for fear that the stormwater detention basin becomes a regulated wetland in the future.
Or mosquito breeding ground, or a place to collect litter. Okay, thank you.
So, sure.
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Elisa? Anybody in the audience? Okay.
Make a motion, we close the hearing.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
I make a motion, we amend the order of conditions as presented with the stipulation that silk fence is added around the work area.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Less mowing to do that way.
Oh, it's easier. Nobody gonna fall in the trench.
Notice of public hearing Wednesday, June 20th, 2018, at 7:15 PM on the notice of intent for Joseph E. Gomes in care of J.C. Engineering, Inc., 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass. 02538, to construct a garage and landscaping for property located on Assessor's Map 119, lots 10 and 11, 22 and 24 Shangri-La Boulevard, Wareham.
Okay, identify yourselves for the record, please. and then-
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Joe Gomes, the property owner.
Okay, David will highlight.
Okay, so again, this project site is at 24 Shangri-La Boulevard, and the project involves the construction of a garage and retaining wall in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland along Glen Charlie Pond. The commission had previously issued an order of conditions for another project at this property, and that order of conditions has since expired. During the construction of that project, there were some violations that took place on the project in terms of doing certain things that were not shown on the approved site plan. This included the construction of a gravel driveway area and the construction of an addition to the dwelling. So this new notice of intent is now proposing a 24 by 36-foot garage. This would be approximately 50 feet from the edge of the wetland. Also, a stone retaining wall approximately 4 to 5 feet high is proposed, and this would be about 32 feet from the edge of the wetland. And it's then proposed to backfill behind the stone retaining wall and raise the grade by approximately 4 to 6 feet at its deepest point. So I did have a question about how much fill would be needed for the project. It's also proposed to place dry wells to handle roof runoff from the new garage. Hay bales and silt fence are proposed between the work and the resource area. This site is on a very steep slope, and it's quite a large structure to fit into this location. I did have a question about whether or not this would be a two-story building, and the engineer did tell me that that would be the case. I also had a question about the unpermitted gravel driveway, if that was proposed to stay or be removed, and it was explained to me that the applicant is trying to get that feature permitted as part of this order of conditions. We did get a DEP file number for this project, but there's also a question as to whether or not this project might have to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that answer has not been given yet, so I would recommend a continuance of the hearing until we get that response from the building inspector.
Any rebuttal?
No, I did speak with Dave today. I hadn't had a chance to calculate quantities of fill, and we have yet to hear back from the building commissioner in regards to whether or not a permit's needed through the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I understand that it would be a continuance. I wanted to still have this meeting so that if there's any issues with the board members, we can address it prior to the next hearing. In my understanding, that's a month from now. So instead of not showing up and then having to address issues a month from now, I'd like to see if they have any issues with the project as laid out. The gravel drive itself was put in during the construction of the new retaining wall across the rear of the property. That was the approved access location, and the base material was stabilized because it was just loam and seed at the time for materials. So that was put in for the construction, and instead of taking it out and loaming and seeding it, the applicant would like to maintain use of that structure. The proposed garage is a one-story with an accessible basement level, lower level garage area. So it seems like 2 stories from the backside, but it's a 1-story from the front side. That's my understanding, correct?
That's correct. It's just we have to put in such a big foundation on the hill, rather than fill all that. We'd like to utilize that storage area.
Okay.
Again, the structure is getting reviewed by the commission in regards to, the commissioner, in regards to what type of special permits needed. We obviously couldn't, due to space, have a attached garage, so it's under their review for the detached structure.
Okay. Rob?
Does the stoop and stairs encroach upon the 50-foot line?
It would be closer than the 50 feet, yes. The garage itself is about 50 feet, and those would be closer than that, yes.
Residential area.
Yeah, in terms of the regs, that is allowable. We have the 30-foot no activity, so it does fit within that area.
Jim? No. Sandy?
Joe and I did take the opportunity to visit the site. That is quite a slope. Now, how do you propose to get from the garage to the house? I don't see any paths.
We'd have that staircase in the back of the building.
Yeah, but it seems to end down on grass before it gets to part of the existing gravel driveway.
Or walk around to the original driveway and walk down that way.
So you're not looking at putting in any type of paths or stones or anything like that to make it an easier walk?
It wasn't.
Just out of curiosity.
Initially planned.
Okay.
I had recommended a rear access out of the garage. He hadn't originally thought of it. I think his intentions were to come in from the front and walk further west on the property where there's currently a walkway that leads up to the existing parking area.
What is the proposed driveway? I see a word called proposed driveway.
Yep.
In green. So that's going to be,
That'll be a new driveway in front of the garage, so it
Yes.
accesses the garage from the street.
so from the street down to the garage will be a brand-new driveway. From the street to the garage is a brand-new driveway. What material?
Pavement.
Okay. I'm done, thank you.
Joe?
It's going to be continued. I don't really have anything. I was down there, that's a difficult to envision this. When you go before the zoning, are you going to be going and showing them an elevation plan?
An elevation of the structure? We would be most likely providing that.
Could you make sure we get a copy of that too? Because this is hard to visualize, and I was down there to see it. No other questions?
Mary?
Question?
Elisa? Anybody in the audience?
I make a motion, we continue until 7:18.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Joe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one.
Notice of public hearing Wednesday, June 20th, 2018, at 7:15 PM on the notice of intent for Thomas Foster and Kara GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to construct a single-family dwelling with attached garage for property located on Assessor's Map 126, Lot 14, 103 Maple Springs Road, Wareham.
Thank you.
Evening, Brian Grady with GAF Engineering.
Thank you. David?
The property is at 103 Maple Springs Road, and again, the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. The wetland line at the site was reviewed, and no changes were made to the line. A 33 by 67-foot single-family dwelling is to be constructed approximately 81 feet from the edge of the wetland, with the limit of work at the site being approximately 40 feet to the edge of the wetland at its nearest point. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the work and the resource area, as shown on the plan, and this would also be the proposed limit of work. A proposed block retaining wall is to be constructed just inside the limit of work line and then backfilled to raise the elevation of the building area by approximately 4 to 5 feet in its deeper location. I did have a question as to whether or not material would need to be brought in to accomplish this, or is there enough material due to the site work that you can accomplish those grades? And if not, how much fill material would be needed for the project? The proposed nitrogen-reducing septic system is outside of the buffer zone to the wetland. We do have a DEP file number for the project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added condition for limited fertilizer on the yard area.
Anything to say?
We haven't calculated the fill. The fill will need to be brought into the site. Just doing a quick estimate, I'm thinking maybe 150 yards.
Okay. Rob? Jim? Sandy?
Nothing, thank you.
Joe?
No, I don't think so.
Mary?
No question.
Elisa?
None.
Anybody in the audience? No?
Seeing none, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Elisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
Make a motion, we grant with standard order of conditions and the stipulation that only slow-reducing nitrogen fertilizer will be used on the lawn.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Elisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. You probably should stay right there.
Thank you, I will.
Notice of public hearing Wednesday, June 20th, 2018 at 7:15 PM on the notice of intent for Jeremy and Josephine Perino, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to replace a failed sewer disposal system for property located at Assessor's Map 35, Lot 9, 79 Edgewater Drive, Wareham.
Again, Brian Grady with GAF Engineering.
You good? Sign up sheet for that, for the last one. Okay. Been one of them days. Okay, thank you, David. That's it.
The project site is at 79 Edgewater Drive and involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and also within a coastal flood zone. The existing system is to be replaced with a new Title V nitrogen-reducing system. The proposed septic tank is approximately 25 feet from the top of the existing seawall, and the leach field would be approximately 75 feet from the top of the seawall. A portion of the work is also within coastal flood zone AE elevation 15, and this again would be a pump system to get up to the leach field from where the tank is. All of the work is to be done within the existing landscape yard area. There is an existing patio that would have to be saw cut to connect to the existing septic pipe. Any excess material from the project would be removed from the site. Silt fence is proposed between the work and the resource area as shown. We do have a DEP file number for the project, which came in this afternoon. So I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions for the project.
Anything to add?
No, sir, nothing to add.
All set.
Rob?
Nothing.
Jim? Sandy?
Nothing, thank you.
Joe?
No questions?
Mary?
No question.
Elisa?
No.
Anybody in the audience? Hearing none.
I make a motion, we close the hearing.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Elisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further
I
motion?
make a motion, we issue our standard order of conditions for this project.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Alicia. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
You might as well stay there. We had a busy night tonight.
All right, I cannot pronounce this name, so I will spell it. Notice of public hearing Wednesday, June 20th, 2018, 7:15 PM on the notice of intent for John Vyhnanek in care of JAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to construct and maintain a vinyl sheet pile wall in front of an existing concrete retaining wall for property located Assessor's Map 46A1, Lot 29, 2 Blue Jay Terrace, Wareham.
Review.
Hello again.
Hello again.
Brian Grady, GAF Engineering.
Dale Briggs, CF Briggs, Marine.
Dale,
How you doing?
been a long time.
Well, only about a year and a half.
Yeah, it's a long time.
For us now.
Uh-huh. David?
Project site is at 2 Blue Jay Terrace in the Pinehurst area, and the project involves repairs to an existing seawall along a coastal bank and coastal beach. It's proposed to drive vinyl sheet piles in front of the existing deteriorating seawall as a way to stabilize the broken and undermined wall. The existing wall is approximately 45 feet in length. There is an area of salt marsh at the east end of the wall, as indicated. There's existing boulders that currently sit at the base of the wall, which would be moved out of the way to drive the piles and then placed back in front of the vinyl sheets. The gap between the vinyl sheet piles and the existing wall is to be filled with flowable fill. I did have some questions about accessibility to this site. It's a very difficult site to access. And also, the wall is not on the actual lot, so this is something that would be on the property of the Pinehurst Beach Association, which I have been informed have been notified. I spoke to their representative, so he's aware of this project. So this is a project that work should have to be done at lower tidal ranges. We have not received comments from the Division of Marine Fisheries yet on this project, so I would recommend a continuance of the hearing until our next meeting, which is July 18th. We did get a file number for it. So again, the project definitely needs to be done. The wall's in pretty rough shape. I'm just concerned with the type of machinery that's going to be in there and how it's going to get there and so forth. So I'm sure Mr. Briggs is going to explain that or try to explain how that's going to happen.
Yeah, when I spoke with Brian last fall, I went and looked at it with a small whaler by water, and then I could tell that my barge isn't gonna go in there. There's not enough water, even at high tide. If you start pushing a barge in there, you're gonna stir up all the ground with the props and everything else. So I recommended a similar, we did something over Indian Neck there about a year and a half ago. Oh, actually about a year ago, I guess it was. Putting concrete blocks in the water as far as we need to go to reach the end of the wall, and place timber mats on top, and that was, an excavator could go around the top of that and then drive the sheets in and pull it back out. It's the only way I can see that can be done. So.
As far as getting down there, it's pretty steep riprap. How do you envision that happening?
We would bridge that, just go the mats on top of that, and then go down to the, you might have to go to a, you know, a lower level, and then, you have to use a machine size of like a 315 Caterpillar, if you know that size, to set it all up, and then possibly do it with a smaller excavator after, drive the sheets. But
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't been there, you might want to go take a look at this, because it's a tricky site. I'm concerned that
Picture.
just concerned with how the beach might be disturbed, because this beach is a little different than the other beach that you had. It's not quite as solid as far as the base, and I'm concerned with stuff kind of sinking in there, you know?
Well, it could, I would say it might sink maybe 6 inches or something like that at the most, maybe. You know, usually when you put the mats on it like that with just with the blocks, it just kind of disperses the weight pretty good. But I would say they could sink in a little bit. And, you know, if there's something that it looked like there was gonna be a problem, then I wouldn't be going out there. Even when I'm starting it, if there's gonna be an issue, then, but it seemed like the ground was hard enough, you know, for the size machine that we have.
And what size machine would you be thinking about in terms of how big is this thing? Is it gonna be?
Well, it's, I don't know, it's a 315 size cat excavator. That would be used to set up the ramp system in the staging area there, and possibly do the whole job with that, or if it's like too bulky, then I'll bring in a smaller excavator just to drive the sheets.
And you don't think something that size would potentially destabilize the end of that Blue Jay Terrace as your...
No,
That's-
because I would bridge it with timber mats. These mats are 4 feet wide, 8 inches high, and 16 feet long, and they're made out of oak. So I've been on them my whole life, mats like this. Actually, these are little ones to me, but they act like a temporary bridge to get over stuff like that.
How would it be supported on the water side? In other words,
That
you
would
gotta...
be that would be the concrete blocks, and they're 2 by 2 by 8, and I think I'd probably have to put like 2 high, and just space them out probably every 8 feet, I think I told you, Brian.
We should go down and look at it.
So that the timber mat can support the machine.
Well, the only thing I would add at this point is, as Dave said, this is a difficult site. Anyone who hasn't seen it, I suggest you go see it. If Dave wants, Dave and I can meet, and Dale can meet at the site and have a closer discussion of the process. The thing that I would want to emphasize, I guess, we're talking less than 50 feet of wall here. So depending on site conditions, this could be a very short duration project for the work actually on the beach. You know, it could take, if things went smoothly, 2-3 days. Site conditions, it may go into a couple of weeks, but it's a relatively short duration project. So he would need to he would start at the far end of the wall, put up his staging to the far end, and then put the sheet piles in, and then remove the staging on the way out. So that staging will start to be removed as the sheet piles are driven and completed. And then the finish of the project, the flowable fill, that will be pumped from the upland side, and the whalers and all that can be done without the staging. So it's a relatively short duration project, I think, is something that needs to be emphasized. But, you know, if Dave wants to do that, we can have that meeting on site, talk things out in a little more detail. And actually, I do have a DMF comment letter. I guess you haven't received that.
No, I had not seen that.
Yeah, I can email that to you tomorrow. They talk about the equipment traversing across the beach and impacting the salt marsh, but I think the salt marsh is far enough on the end that we're not going to impact that with any of the staging. Minimize the seaward encroachment of the vinyl sheet pile, which we're going to do. We're only going to put that as far out from the existing wall as we need to. And they talk about removing that riprap that's there at the end of the project, not replacing that. But I can email this to you.
Okay.
Rob? I'd like to watch it happen.
Quite a project.
I have nothing.
Sandy?
If I understood, you're going to get the machinery down to the water off the ground through the,
Yeah, it'd be elevated probably 4 feet up.
so that Blue Jay Terrace has a extension right to the water's edge, so you'll be using that grassed area
Exactly, yeah.
to access the site. Because we were wondering, I mean, it's just so steep, so small.
You'd be
We went at high tide, so my next project will be there at low tide, so I can walk on
Mhm.
this with my boots to see how far I sink. You know,
Yeah, it's no problem for him getting down Blue Jay Terrace, that grass slope, it turns into a riprap slope.
Yep.
And with him bridging it, with the timber mats, these machines are quite nimble with a good operator.
Same idea as what we did, Dave, over at Indian Neck there last year, just a small scale, a lot smaller scale.
Right.
But that one worked out perfection. And
Thank you.
I think it came out pretty good, and, the beach looks good, and,
Yeah, it's just a bit of a different environment, as you know, so that's why I'm a little
yeah, I know
leery
it's
of it.
tight, it is, it's a pain in the neck, I
Yeah.
agree with you, it is, it's a pain in the neck, and
It's too bad there's nothing that could reach or get into close enough from the upland side to just reach over the wall and drive.
I have a
it.
crane on tracks, but I don't know if I could get it in there, it's just, then I still have to build a little platform to get out beyond, to get around the corner, so,
Mm.
but
Yeah, and that might require some trees coming down for some reaching,
it's just, it's just
and that's a much
a
bigger.
little bit bigger, it's a lot bigger machine, so it looks like it'd be more of a hassle than anything, and,
Right.
I mean, it'd be nice to do it that way, I agree with you, it would be, then we have to
Yeah.
go way out there, but,
Okay.
this is the only way I can see to do it, unless there's somebody out there with a very tiny barge that can sneak in there and try to do it, but you gotta have some kind of decent equipment to get those sheets in properly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sandy?
Something I noticed, when we were down there is a tremendous amount of bushes right there at the edge of the concrete. Are they planned to be removed?
Top of the existing wall?
Yes. I
No,
mean, it's
none of
just-
that is planned to be removed. That existing wall will remain, and
But the
then,
plant material behind it will continue to stay?
right,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Now, there'll be people walking on top of the wall, but we're not calling for any of that to be removed.
But some of them will have to be trimmed so they can walk on top of the wall, yes.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Joe?
It's a head scratcher.
Yeah, it is.
It's almost like if you could get a smaller barge, I'd rather see a barge grounded there for 3 days instead of seeing you trying to go up and down. But like I say, I don't do that for a living.
Yeah.
Mary? No question. Lisa?
So, following up on Joe's, would you rather have a barge there just?
Well, I wouldn't do my barge on the ground, I wouldn't put it on the ground. I just wouldn't do it. You never know what you're gonna sit on, and you're gonna have issues. And
Okay.
the barge I have is not designed to sit. I had one probably 30 years ago, I'd probably do it, but it draws 3 feet of water already before you do anything, so you wouldn't be able to get near it. So, yeah, I wouldn't,
Thank
do that.
Anybody in the audience? Nope.
Seeing none, I make a motion, we continue the hearing until July 18th.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Elisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hello?
Discussion?
Yeah.
What are we charged with to get done?
Well, I think we're waiting for some documentation, aren't we?
That and to basically for members to get a closer look at the site if they wish to, and for us to have a discussion about the methodology.
So would you want to have that on-site meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I just want to confirm that, okay.
So that'll be the 18th?
Right.
Okay,
Come-
thank you.
Come visit us again.
The Frank O'Brien hearing, is that continued?
That needs to be continued, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
is anybody here for that? No? The Frank O'Brien RDA continued hearing
I make a
will
motion,
be continued,
I
or
would just ask a question.
requested to be continued?
Is there any need to continue this?
Yes, there is, because, all right, thanks. At this point, the applicant does not have all the information that he needs to have for us to review the project, so he's requested a further continuance of it.
All right, what are we waiting on for as far as that goes?
He's trying to get a contractor that will agree to do the work and provide the methodology of how they're going to do it. So he's not quite there yet on that.
So you're probably gonna take out the stonework and stuff like that?
Yeah, the intent is to take out the pier itself and leave the stanchions in place, but take the top deck off of it. And the pilings that are out in the water, those would be taken out also.
Because he's got plenty of water there for doing that.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with not having the water, it's to do with him getting a contractor that's agreeing to do it.
Okay, no, I just didn't know whether we could get that right off and...
I make a motion, we continue the Frank O'Brien hearing until 7/18.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Elisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All righty. Did everybody get a chance to check out the minutes for May 16th?
I reviewed the minutes of May 16th and make a motion we approved as submitted.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Elisa. All those, Elisa, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
There has to be one abstention.
One.
Rob was absent.
Okay, so
Those
it's,
don't have to, by the way, you don't have to abstain if you weren't there. You can still vote on it, even though you were not there.
Really?
Yes.
I never thought so. Okay,
Yes.
can I take my comment back?
You don't have to. If you wish to abstain, you can, but you're not obligated to.
so it's 7-0-0, right? Thank you. All right, Sandy, you were raising your hand. Do you have something?
We're down to the Buzzards Bay Coalition, Broadmarsh, CR.
Oh.
They want to change the holder.
Okay, you step forward, please.
Good evening, Alan Decker with the Buzzards Bay Coalition, and I am in front of you this evening on the Broadmarsh Conservation Restriction. I'd like to let you know that the coalition does in fact own the property at this point, and as part of our funding for acquiring the property, we are placing a conservation restriction on the property. And this evening, I'm in front of you seeking your support for the conservation restriction with the signing of the municipal certification, which speaks to the conservation values that are being protected by the placement of the conservation restriction. I have maps if you're needing a nudge or a reminder of where this property is located. It's 45 acres, slightly more than that, right on the west side of Great Neck Road, east side of Great Neck Road. And I know I was in front of you before. On this conservation restriction, we went through all the reserved rights and everything, but there's a need to change the holder of the conservation restriction from the Conservation Commission, in this case, to the Wareham Land Trust. Nancy McHale from the Land Trust is here in the room this evening. The Land Trust has voted to hold the conservation restriction, and so with the change of holder, we're now, there's this additional element of this municipal certification that then gets presented to the Board of Selectmen when I'm in front of them seeking their approval of the conservation restriction and ultimate signing by the secretary. Bit of an odd situation, I grant you, but still a great project. We are going to open the property up for public access for passive recreation, and there have been no changes in the conservation restriction itself as far as the reserved rights. We still will reserve the ability to place a small parking area on the property, unpaved or perviously paved, and the creation of trail access for the property and other minor amenities to make the public's enjoyment of the property for passive recreation and environmental education that much more beneficial. I am happy to answer questions that you might have about this situation and go into more detail on the conservation values, although...
Didn't we sign a CR?
You did. You
Can we have the sheet back?
You absolutely, ma'am.
I mean, it's no longer valid, correct?
With the change of grantee, that's correct.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to hand that sheet back to you.
Just curious. So all you're asking for us is to indicate our support for the project, for the CR?
That's correct, through this municipal...
So we will be no holder of it, we will not be involved in maintaining or doing walks through that project, right? I mean...
Well, that's right.
We will not be the holder of a CR, therefore we won't have to do inspections.
That's right. You, just like other members of the public, can come and enjoy it with no burden or duties thereto.
Thank you.
Anything else?
May I have a map?
Oh, absolutely.
Has any wording changed in the
Thank
deed
you.
restriction?
The only wording that changed was the changing of the
name
grantee. That's right.
From Town of Wareham to the Wareham Land Trust.
That's right. Anybody else map? Yes, of course. Of course.
Thank you.
No, that's right, I got umpteen copies.
Yeah,
Thank
me
you.
too.
Yeah, understood. Understood. Understood.
Okay.
I make a motion, we approve, we sign the letter of support? Is that what it is, a letter of support?
Municipal certification.
Municipal certification.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Joe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay.
And if you don't mind, so that I can provide this to the selectman's office tomorrow, I'd like to hand it up and get signatures right now, if I could.
Okay.
Thank you.
That would have been a mucky walk for us to check that out.
Get your boots on.
Unless you supplied a kayak or two.
Well, it's a special place, and yes, it's 45 acres in size, but it's almost 42 and a half of salt marsh.
It's nice habitat in there.
It's fantastic. It's great salt marsh.
And we get our bird's nest.
There is a reserved right for the placement of an osprey pole, absolutely.
I want to see him start building nests in trees again. Maybe breed that out of them.
You know what? I agree.
We're making dumb ospreys.
I actually think we have one with a tree next to near us.
Yeah.
They're young, the first year, I believe, some of the young dudes hang around here.
They do. They come back.
Oh, yeah.
They got a roost in the trees.
Yeah.
Did you already do this one, Sandy?
I signed.
Kenny, did you do this?
Yep.
Mhm.
And Dave, I'll scan that and email it to you.
I think maybe once you get the whole document, just that by itself, I don't think I necessarily need.
Okay. Yeah, no, happy to do that. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good night.
You too.
Have a good one.
Okay, we have, our next scheduled meeting is July, he's an observer.
Observer, okay.
You're an observer, right? Thank you. our next meeting is scheduled for July 4th, so we want to move it to July 8th.
18th.
18th?
Well,
You want to go that far?
well, those are, that's what we had discussed before. Our meetings for July would be the 4th and the 18th. So the 4th, we're not having a meeting because it's the 4th, and so the discussion last time was just to skip that and just go to the 18th.
18th, okay.
Can we add to that agenda on the 18th, the discussion and vote on reorganization of the committee?
You really want to do that?
Yes?
No. Am I in trouble?
No?
Okay. That's fine, yep. Add reorganization. Yeah, the appointments have been made, so
Yes.
it's
So
tradition.
make sure that, Mary, you go to the clerk's office and get sworn in.
Okay.
Mark has to too, but I don't know who's in contact with Mark, gets sworn at.
David talks to
Do
him.
you
once
have
in a while.
something as far as your reorganization that you want us to think about in the next month?
Just the discussion as to the chair and vice chair.
Well, we like you guys.
Just that, we had at one time said that we would be changing the chair more frequently than we had with Mr. Westgate, who had been chair for so long. 'Cause
20
I
years.
think you and John had talked about changing the chair every 2 years, and we haven't done it.
Yeah, we talked about, well, we didn't really come up with a time period.
No, but there was more frequently than Mr. Westgate,
Yeah, because he was chair for 20 years.
yeah.
I haven't quite hit that yet.
It wouldn't hurt to have that discussion come up once a year anyways.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. We'll put it on the agenda.
Also, again, so we don't have a meeting scheduled for the 4th. The meeting of the 18th, I'm going to be away on vacation, so I will not actually be here for that meeting. So just want to make that point again.
Where are you
Just
going
rubbing it in.
I hate
Where you
when you do
going?
that. Well, you can all discuss it on who's going to do his readings. Last time I did him, I murdered him, so.
I don't mind reading some.
I will try to put some information
You can
together
do
as best I can, but that
Okay.
may not
It's all,
100%
Fine.
he's got it all written down, so it's pretty
Where are you
good.
going, Dave?
to London.
London.
No, so I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Lisa and Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you. Ma'am, are you all set?
No, she's wearing, Nancy's wearing the interest.
Okay.
She's just being lazy.
No.